Hello, beautiful beings. Welcome back to my channel. I bring you the Clear It series, episode 2. We're going to be talking with licensed social worker, certified EMDR specialist, Carolina Batista. She is joining us from New York. You're in New York still, right?
I'm between three states, but yeah, right now.
And I'm so excited to have her on this episode with me. Carolina and I used to work together at a previous employer,
Mm.
and she is just God sent to me. I appreciate her in every level, love her, and we're going to dig right into this. Okay, so I have my questions here, but before I start, introduce yourself, Carolina.
Yes. Hi. So I feel the same way about you because I feel like you're such an inspiration for me because I really see how you're doing the healing. And I think the real healing that happens is this, where you give people the tools to do it. So I'm Carolina. I'm a social worker. I mostly work as I do bilingual therapy. I do some couples therapy as well, but I mostly do individual therapy. I have been doing it for, let's say, I graduated last May, so it's been about a year, and then prior to that was 2 years at through school, and then prior to that I was working in intimate partner violence and like the LGBT center in Brooklyn. So I have like a lot of different experiences, which is very social worker of me. Like I think therapy is important, but I think that there's like a whole view of a person that's really, really important to address. So I think a lot of my experiences draw from that.
Yeah, because we're very complex creatures. Sometimes
Yeah.
we need more than one thing to help us. And
Yeah.
all of these big people up there, trust me, they have a list of people helping them get to their next level.
Mm-hmm.
They have therapists, they have healers, they have all of these things available to them. And I know that, they might have more money than we do, but there is still a lot that we can do on our level.
Absolutely. And I think even too, sometimes there's different therapists for different times and different things you're trying to reach. And then it's like there's therapies, there's spirituality, there's so many different tools. And there's going to be some moments that therapy is going to be a good tool, some moments where there's other things that are going to be better tools. So I think we're lucky. I think that's what I love about the way that you see healing, which is that like, okay, we're going to pull from everything that we need and like, what is the right tool for this moment? I really love the way you see that.
Yeah, so because this is, a lot of the videos that I create on my channel are just mostly just pulling from my own history, just pulling
Mm-hmm.
from all of the things that I've been overcoming throughout the years. So I always pride myself in teaching from what I know. So instead of, being just about theory, this is
Mm-hmm.
like concrete information. This is factual. I've lived this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's like kind of like practice what you preach a little bit
Yeah.
because I it's a long journey. It can be a very confusing journey.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can shorten the time for other people,
Yeah.
it will be so amazing. And that is why I created this series, the Clear It series, because even though this is a law of assumption channel, we know that a lot of the times when law of assumption doesn't necessarily work for us the way that it might work for other people, it might be
Mm-hmm.
because we need to clear some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Clear emotional stuff, clear trauma. Trauma is like a whole big thing.
Mhm.
Um, and I like EMDR. I have to look more into it for
Good
myself
talk.
to see like, oh, do I need that? Or at least do I need to try a session?
Yeah,
But I've heard great things about it and it's right up our alley.
it is. And I even will say I never would have I never would have thought that for me EMDR would work. And then when I was doing the training, we have to do it on each other. Like we have to experience what it's like to be on the other side. And it changed my life. And I was like, I never would have done it if it wasn't for this training. But actually I feel like I really did need it and I didn't even realize for my whole life.
And
So
that is the best way to learn,
yeah.
kind of like practice it and see it work on yourself because then you're working from experience.
And it's like you said, what you've experienced and the wisdom that you bring to it, there's the textbook, like you said, there's the stuff that the theory, but then there's the reality. And a lot of times the theory is coming, from people's own unique experience, but a lot of time that is like white men's experience, or like some person that maybe doesn't have the same experiences that most people have. So I think that's why it's really powerful that you go from, okay, what did I experience, what helped me, and like you said, shorten that time, but also that pain that another person might have to experience. So
For sure, for sure. Okay, so question number one would be, how does EMDR help to clear some of the limiting beliefs, the core limiting beliefs, some of the emotional pain, some of the trauma? How does that work?
okay, so basically EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. I'm gonna explain what that is, but I just want to capture that because the eye movement part is a really big piece of it, but I'm gonna explain where it comes from. So when you're sleeping, your brain is automatically putting or filing away your memories. If you think about, like, there's filing cabinets in your brain and they hold your memories. And then when you experience you have a very overwhelming experience that threatens your safety, which we will sometimes call, like, that's trauma. But trauma is the symptoms that come from having that.
Right.
And so the way that happens is, let's say that memory, that traumatic memory, instead of being filed away, it stays open. So you just have all your other memories are getting processed or getting put away and filed, but this one stays open. And so what EMDR does is that because you can't put it away, you can't file it away while you're sleeping, EMDR is saying, all right, like, we can't do that while you're sleeping. Let's do it awake. You do it with a trusted person. And what it's doing, and that's where the eye movement part comes in, because when you're sleeping, I don't know if you've noticed this in other people or if you know this, but when you're sleeping, you'll notice that your eyes will be moving rapidly from left to right. EMDR is recreating that to close that file while you're awake. And because sometimes we can't do it alone. That's where it becomes traumatic, it becomes overwhelming, and that part of our brain shuts down. So that's basically the heart of EMDR, is we're saying, okay, how do we close this file? Then after we close that, a lot of times what happens is that traumatic memory also becomes then associated with a negative belief about yourself. It could be, there's like a range of them, and each one is going to be specific for each person, but it's like, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not responsible. It could be anything. But the second part of EMDR is also saying, okay, we're going to take that core belief, we're going to identify what memory is attached to that has stayed open. We're going to close the memory file. That's the desensitization to the memory. So we close it. That's going to happen with left to right, or it can also happen with what's called butterfly taps, where you alternate. Once we close it, we're now going to reprocess it. And instead of that core negative belief, we're going to choose a positive belief. So, like, I am not enough. We're going to switch it to I am enough. And we're going to install that. That's the reprocessing part of it. And we do that same with, like, the left to right, the butterfly taps. There's other ways to do it too. But once we desensitize to the original memory, the triggering memory that can sometimes come up, and that's where we have a lot of negative symptoms, once we kind of put that file away, the next big thing of EMDR is like, okay, what is the positive belief that is going to replace this? And then we tap it in. So there's a language you're going to hear me say a lot, but you're going to hear EMDR people say it in, tap it in, 1, 2, tap it in. And once it's tapped in, what you'll find, and what I found even for myself, is that, like, that belief will stick. And sometimes you come back, right? Sometimes you might need to reinstall it a few times. There might be more memories attached to that negative belief. So it depends. And that's where I think, like, working with an EMDR therapist especially is especially important, because a good EMDR therapist is going to take their time with you, is going to go through each step with you, is going to build some coping skills that are different. But it's like, it could be breathing, it could be grounding exercises, it could be a lot of different things, but there's some specific ones that we do in EMDR that are very helpful to help actually for you to stay present while those negative memories are being looked at. So that's basically kind of like the overview of how EMDR, because so the limiting beliefs, we would call it limiting beliefs, but we also could call it a core negative belief. So it's the same thing. And so EMDR is saying, because this memory is open and because it's attached to this negative belief, we're experiencing a lot of emotional pain. So part of the root is like, if we address those two things, some of that emotional pain will lessen.
That is
Yeah.
amazing. So EMDR is basically another cousin to EFT tapping because
Yes.
there is still tapping involved. And
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that you can kind of like remove the limiting belief and insert the opposite positive one in,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Mm-hmm.
really, really helpful. That's kind of like the whole game, right? But
Yes.
that's all we're working at.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the question is, you kind of answered half of it already. So we have a memory that
Mm-hmm.
is open. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
guessing most likely the memory is open because it's emotionally charged. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
that's why you get triggered because
Mm-hmm.
you get triggered and automatically you get triggered by something else completely you might think be completely unrelated, and then when you
Mm-hmm.
trace it back it's because of that emotional pain that you have attached to that memory or the
Mm-hmm.
limiting belief that you created because of that memory,
Mm-hmm.
right?
A little, yeah.
A
So
little
I
bit on
mean,
close.
yeah, close. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you have a memory and let's say you have several limiting beliefs created by
Mm-hmm.
one memory.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing you go one by one.
So yeah, I mean, basically what you do, we start by themes. So this is why it's also a little bit different from talk therapy. You're like, okay, tell me everything, and then let's make sense of it, and that can be really helpful. But I think what's really powerful about EMDR is we're going by theme. So we first identify the core negative belief, and we're identifying what are like the three. It's about three memories that are the strongest memories most associated with this belief. So you actually usually will, and so then, like you said, we will go memory by memory, but instead of like, oh, okay, now this memory, you also found this memory is attached. We're not going to go through all of the memories that attach to the negative core belief. We're going to go with some of the strongest, which would be like the first time you felt it, the worst time you felt it, and I think the most recent time you felt it. So they've kind of done the research to find that like with those three, even if you have other memories associated with that negative belief, with those three, you could really break it down because that's the heart of that negative belief.
That's great because I'm actually kind of like putting it back because when I was getting certified for EFT tapping,
Mm-hmm.
there is a technique that they call um the story technique
Mm-hmm.
that is sort of like you go through a memory
Mm-hmm.
and every time there's a crescendo in the memory, every time there's like a little bit of an
Mm-hmm.
emotional increase on the memory, you tap. You do like a whole round of
Mm,
tapping to lower the emotional intensity.
yeah.
And then you will start a story again, and then you pass kind of like
Mhm.
point one. So then when you get to point two of another emotional intensity, you tap it away. So you keep
Mm,
doing that until you're able to start the story from the beginning on end to the end without any emotional, spike.
yes. Yeah. I think that you're right that they're cousins because that's kind of a similar the process of desensitization or the process of filing away those memories is a little bit like that. So we use with tapping the it's not just have for us is the bilateral stimulation. So stimulating both sides of your brain. That could be visually, physically, orally, audially even. But basically we kind of do a similar thing except that the concept is that when we're doing the bilateral stimulation or the tapping or left to right, the faster we go, the faster you're going to run through that memory. So someone gave it to me as an analogy of like the tapping or the left to right, the bilateral stimulation, that's like a gas pedal. So I think it's very similar to EFT tapping where you're trying to minimize, you're trying to desensitize yourself to like that, to the
Mhm.
memory. But in this case, what we do is when we want to go through, we want to go past a really hard memory really fast, then we tap really fast.
Okay.
But when we're feeling a good feeling, when it feels when we're installing the positive belief, when we're creating some of the safety, the coping skills that we'll do, it's going to be a little bit slower. It's going to be a
Okay.
lot slower. And that the gas pedal was like, if you're in the car and you're going through scenery and the scenery is bad, you're going to
Yeah.
press the gas pedal and you'll be like, I want to get out of here. But if it's really beautiful, you're like, hey, this is nice, the scenic route, and you want to stay. So that's kind of like, it's very similar, very, very similar, I think, to EFT tapping. I think they're doing in different ways, but I think they're going on some of the same core ideas about how to move through it.
I love it. I'm really loving what
Mm-hmm.
you're telling me up from EFDR. It's like this sounds really, really good.
It's
Okay,
power.
so from your perspective
Mm-hmm.
as a professional social worker, how important would you say that clearing this stuff and closing those files how important do you think that is towards people's lives,
Mhm.
towards their emotional pain, towards just going
Mhm.
through your day to day?
I would say, I would say it's important. I would say it's really important, but I think so as a social worker, a lot of the things, the way that I look at mental health is not looking at it just mental health. So we're looking at financial well-being, we're looking at family system, we're looking at community level, all the health. There's so many aspects of it. So I feel like where EMDR comes in for me is that I think is a really powerful tool because if you have the core negative belief, for example, I am not worthy. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of respect. I'm not worthy. It's going to be very hard for you to advocate for yourself. It's going to be very hard for you to even maybe even go to medical appointments and follow up on small pains that you might have because you're like, oh, whatever, I could push through. It's something like you just push through and you're like,
Right,
whatever, I gotta
right.
be strong. And not only that, but then on top of it might even be like launching a business, right? You don't see your own strengths, you don't see your own gifts as strengths, you don't see yourself as someone who is capable, someone who is talented. Like there's so many ways that it impacts all parts of your life. And as a social worker, that's where I'm like, this is so important because one, you don't have to talk about it, which I think is very hard when it comes to trauma. It can be really re-triggering to talk about it, re-traumatizing, triggering and re-traumatizing to bring up and go into detail about what's happened. So where with EMDR, I feel like it's very, very powerful for when you don't fully have the space, I think to like mentally space, the mental space and maybe the safety to kind of go into detail about something that's happened, especially in childhood or something like even a natural disaster. I think EMDR
Mhm.
can be very helpful for that too. So I think it's just so important because it's not just your mental health. It could be it's showing like anxiety, it's showing like PTSD symptoms. But then when you look at every other aspect of your life, it's hard to be in genuine relationships. It's hard to be in relationships that are mutually respectful or mutually loving. But because there's this core negative belief of I'm not worthy of love, I'm not worthy of respect. And I think that this is a tool that there's no time frame to it, but I think that it's more accessible sometimes actually in the space. I think accessibility in terms of finding a therapist that does it, I think that's a different thing, but the tool itself is something more physical that I think is really important. That's why like EFT tapping, I think is so important because it's a personal practice that you can do that I think would complement this very well. So yeah.
I love that because, like I always say, this is a journey and it's such an
Mm-hmm.
individual journey. And, we got to start somewhere, right? Um, but this kind of puts the power back in our hands.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing that there are modalities out there that can actually help you.
Mm-hmm.
When I used to work with social workers, and we used to provide services to a very low income community,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of like opens your eyes to a lot of the needs in the community, a lot of the needs
Mm-hmm.
that people just walk around, you know, with their struggles, and they can feel so disempowered because they don't know that these things are out there to help them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like this is what we're doing. We're spreading the word. We're kind of like letting people know that this work is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that they can do it. They can find somebody, and they could look at everything and be like, all right, so I have these five options of five modalities. Which one do I think is gonna work best for
Yeah.
me? And just give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can book an EMDR session and just be like, I'm just gonna see how I feel after I work on one memory,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Yeah.
take it from there. Same thing with EFT tapping. I'm gonna work on one memory. I'm gonna work on one limiting belief that I know I have and I have been struggling with. At least you're sort of like investing in yourself with time, and
Mm-hmm.
because you're worth it. And it's kind of like you said, when you have the limiting belief of not feeling worthy, it blocks you.
So much.
It blocks you from everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're here. We're trying
Yeah, that
to we're trying to help.
no, and you're doing it because I think that's why I really like the Clear series because I feel like even with therapy, not all therapy is the same. An EMDR session, 10 EMDR sessions is going to be a completely different experience from talk therapy. There's other forms too, like internal family systems that complement this really well. But we're not always told what those things are. And like you said, a lot of these people at the top, they have they have a whole team, they have a whole care team, and they have people that are recommending them this. So I feel like learning, okay, what are the different types of therapy? Do I feel a lot of physical symptoms? If you're feeling a lot of physical symptoms, you're going to want to go with something that's more physical. If you're
Right.
feeling is a lot of negative beliefs, you might want to go with something that's more cognitive, like more CBT. Like you might want to,
Yeah.
so each thing is going to be different things. So I think that's really important to go like this and really, what is EMDR? What is it good for? How does it work? Could it be for me? I feel like this is so powerful, this series you're doing.
I what was I gonna say?
Okay.
I was listening to you and I'm just thinking so much about everything you're saying, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute. But this is so important, and not to ever kind of like discredit regular therapy. I think there is a space and time,
Yes.
right? There's
Yeah.
space and time. I know for a fact that talk therapy might not be as helpful with people, for example, with PTSD, like
Mm-hmm.
veterans,
Mm-hmm.
because constantly bringing up those memories are just going to re-traumatize you.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a space and time, and you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So I remember after my father passed away, he passed away almost 8 years ago. I decided to look for a therapist, and
Mm-hmm.
I was given the information to go to this lady.
Mm-hmm.
I went to her for like I think 2, 3 sessions, and what she said to me did not resonate at all. And I said, "Oh, okay, thank you." And when I left, I was like, "Okay, time for me to find another therapist."
Mm-hmm.
Because her values just didn't align with mine.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was learning that the pain, the emotional pain that I was feeling, it wasn't just grief. It was because for the first time in my life, I was starting to understand that what I thought was normal growing up
Mm.
was actually
Wow.
not. And I was actually dealing with trauma. So my father's death, and kind of like poetic way, was sort of like a catalyst for me to kind of like,
Absolutely.
hit rock bottom
Mm-hmm.
and start to look up and be like, what am I doing? Is
Yeah.
this even my life? So I was already learning mind, it's like cognitive and mind stuff on YouTube. And I was like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna search for a therapist that understands the brain more.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I picked this guy. I hope I have him on my Cleared series in the future. He's
Amazing.
amazing. And I picked him for the mere fact that he was, on top of being a talk therapist, he was a hypnotherapist.
Mm.
And that just told me, I
Incredible.
was like, if he knows this, then he understands subconscious versus conscious
Mm-hmm.
mind. And he never did hypnotherapy on me, but that
But
but that already told me this is someone I can speak to. I
mm-hmm.
haven't spoken to him in years, but there was, at that time, I needed to speak to someone like him.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I look at where I'm at. So it's kind of like you go through your journey, and there's,
Yeah.
there's different seasons, and each season has a different need.
Mm-hmm.
But the work that you're doing is so amazing. I can't wait to see what you do in the next 2 years.
Thank you. Thank you, Mariana. I'm
Um,
glad you brought up hypnotherapy, by the way, because I think same as EFT tapping, I think hypnotherapy is cousins with EMDR a little bit. But
they're
yeah,
all kind of like,
they're
kind of like in the
related.
same thing, because they're also cousins of acupuncture. But we know
Mm-hmm.
acupuncture is a lot older than all of these modalities. So I guess we
Mm-hmm.
could say acupuncture is kind of like the uncle, like the old,
Mm-hmm. Okay, I like that. I like
like
that.
the
This
older
family
one.
of healing.
Yeah. And then it has sprout all of these new modalities. But I just love it. So I had a question
Mm-hmm.
here, but you kind of like already went through like, how do you practice EMDR? You said you go through the memory. But
Yeah,
when
so
you were when you were learning it, um, can you talk about how it has helped you personally?
mhm. Yeah, this is coming at such a perfect moment because it really hit me so much yesterday, actually, how much it's changed my life. And so I took the training, the first in parts. So I took the first part in January, and the way that it works is in phases, but in the training is very condensed. So we're doing like, there's certain phases that go together. So we're doing like all the phases in 1.5 hours. You know, usually you'll do it in 45 minutes and it'll be multiple sessions, but this is like, we're practicing on each other. Like I said, I never thought that, I never would have gone to get it myself. I think that's how I feel. So I'm so grateful I did this training, because then when I did it and I was in that role of, you know, you're genuine. You're like, this is what I'm feeling. These are the memories. It's very honest. It's very raw. At least the group that I was in and who I did it with, we were very honest with each other. And I realized that I had this belief of I am not enough. Like that's why I gave that example, because I realized that I had that. And you know, we went through, we reprocessed these memories. I didn't even think about it, because what you do is you give a title. You just give a headline of the memory. You don't really go into it, but just like an image or a title of what this memory is. And even as I was saying it, I was like, oh, I never even thought about this. Like I never in my life have even thought of this memory before. But now when you're asking me, where does this come from? Like this time from when I was 6 is actually in my brain, like ready to be said. And, you know, we did it. I cried. It was like, I was like, okay, this was a lot.
You had that
I had,
relief, that release.
yeah, but it's like, I had one of the hardest months in like many years right after that. Like I had a really hard month, like physically, emotionally, in every way, to the point I regretted doing it, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. Like up until like a week ago, I really regretted doing that training, because I felt like I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready for how intense it was, like how much emotional energy it took out of me. But when I did the second time around, the second training, we focused on a different one, and I was what we call a lying client, which is someone who is not, I wasn't purposely lying in the exercise, but it was so hard for me to actually say out loud that whether I was okay or not. Like I was a really good example. So it was very intense. But I was what I said, like a lying client. So I guess like I'm naming that to say that like even as much as you know, I've been in therapy for many, many years now. Like it's something I value it. I'm aware as much as I can be of my emotions. And even like that in the session, it was so hard for me. And that's part of it, right? Like you're with a trained therapist, even an untrained therapist, right? Because I was with someone that was training, but part of the script is that's built in. But when you're working with someone, and that's why it's so important to work with someone else that can like catch these things, they watch you and they observe. When like mid session, while we were doing some of the reprocessing, I was out. I was like completely out of it. Like I wasn't even present. And a big part of it is like, what are you feeling? You know, you have to respond back. And I was like, I'm great. I'm good. I'm good. And I wasn't. So it's very overwhelming. And I guess like I just say that to normalize that, even though it's there to help you reprocess these things, it's there, there's someone there guiding you, it's still hard. So I guess like it's hard, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't make it easier.
Listen, that I just made a video talking about like the dark night of the soul because
Mm-hmm.
I literally tapped into like my rejection memory, like my
Mm-hmm.
core rejection pain. And I was in pain, emotional and physical pain
Mm-hmm.
for what felt like 2 full months.
I believe it.
So when you talk about being hard, yes,
Mm-hmm.
true transformation is painful
Mm-hmm.
because you're processing.
Something that was painful.
Yeah, your mind is processing, your body is processing.
Mm-hmm.
There's like this period of like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I still feel like I'm processing. Like I had to get help. It got so bad because there was all of this just like pent up
Mm-hmm.
emotional pain. It was like I was crying every day. I was crying out of nowhere. There were no reasons for me to be crying. It would
Mm-hmm.
just come up. Just come up. All of these we were talking about is like all these old cries,
Yeah.
like
Those old
years
cries.
of old cries. And at points, I was like, am I ever gonna get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should have just left it alone. Maybe I should have,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I shouldn't even have
Yes.
into the freaking rejection pain if I knew it was going to take this long for me to clear it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all like, yeah, I feel better now. Is there still some there? I don't know because I could still be processing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in the future I might have to revisit it and maybe it'll be lesser.
Yeah,
But this is the reality. I feel
it
like a lot of times
is.
people want to sugarcoat it, but we need to normalize that there is a processing.
Mm-hmm. And it's physical, like you said. I'm so glad you said that because I remember like being even in the session after, like I felt physically ill. Like I thought I had COVID at one point. Like I was so exhausted. So was having these symptoms that I was like, bro, like, am I sick? Like, actually, am I sick? But I'm like, yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
lot to process. Like you feel like, at least for me, and I think everybody's different, but that's why when you said the physical for 2 months, I'm like, yeah, like I've been feeling that heavy since that January. It's been like that where I have so many strong, and I've always been like a physical symptoms type of person with mental health, but I think that like I just love that you brought that in, that it's like it's also not just in the session, but it's beyond that, it's after that,
Beyond
and like
that.
and
Yeah.
who knows how long. And I think like what you named too of like that, there's this moment of like, damn, I shouldn't have even got into this. I should have
Yeah.
just left this alone. Like I was okay, but it's like you weren't, you know what I mean?
You weren't. Right.
You were in
Right.
pain, and it was hard. I think like that's what, to me, I've seen such a change from EMDR, that now I'm like, this is real. EMDR is real. Like I would feel that to myself, because even as a therapist, like it's not that I didn't think it was real, but I think until you experience it yourself, you're like, how could this work? And then for me, I had this moment actually like 2 days ago where I was like a personality quiz person. Like I love these things that would tell me like, these are your strengths, but I would look at them and they would be like, you're really creative, you're really this, you're really understanding, you love people, da, da. And I would look at it and be like, I could only see the bad. Like I could only see these things as weaknesses, as like all the things that I lacked. I would look at people being like, you're so creative, and I'd be like, yeah, but I suck at executing the idea that I'm creative with, or like anything people would say. And yesterday I'm thinking as I'm working with people, and I was like, dang, like I'm really talented at this. Like this is something I've cultivated, or this is something I've worked so hard in, or like, okay, yes, I'm creative. I do struggle with executing, but I'm also really good at making connections with people. Maybe through my relationships, they can help me execute. And it's like it has changed. Like
Wow.
I'm crying because I was thinking
That
about it
shows you, that
yesterday.
literally
Yeah.
shows you the transition. There is a
Yes.
transition. This
Big.
is now you're making me want to cry because
It's
when I
heavy.
when I was going through this as well, I doubted. I'm like, I have a freaking YouTube channel and I'm doubting here. I'm
Mm-hmm.
doubting that I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Have I been wrong all these years? Did I bite more than I could chew?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, if nothing has taught me throughout all these years, is that I tried to go so hard by myself for so many years. I didn't think I was worthy of putting time, putting effort,
Mm-hmm.
just giving to me. It was always just for the other people.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, you know what? I'm going through this. I'm going to find help. I'm going to look for help. Somebody to freaking hold my hand
Mm-hmm.
while I go through this darkness.
Yeah.
And at the end, if it didn't work out, at least I tried.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that I had to go through this because I wasn't, it's kind of like you want more. You cannot keep, you cannot want a better anything and continue doing what you've been doing because obviously it's not
Yeah.
working. It's not working. So
Mm-hmm.
anything that you want to achieve new,
You
you
need
need to do
to.
things differently.
Yeah.
And the thing with these processes is that we are so scared of pain. Because I'm number one right here.
Understandable. Yeah. Same.
We are so scared of pain because we've been on subconscious low grade
Mm-hmm.
pain for so many
Mm-hmm.
years. We don't want more pain.
Yeah.
But you have to kind of like look at it this way. You go through this tunnel, you just trust the
Mm-hmm.
process. Just,
Mm-hmm.
just trust it.
The things
Just
they
trust
say are
the
real.
process. Just
Yeah.
even if you have to crawl through the freaking floor, You keep going, and eventually you will get out on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no way in hell that there's people out there that have got a worse life than we have, and they have made it to the other side. What do they have that we don't? Nothing. Because we're all the same. We all have the same capabilities of
Mm-hmm.
becoming great beings. It's just all the programming, all of the old programming.
Wow.
And this work that you're doing is so important. I'm so happy when you told me you got certified for EMDR. I was like, yes, yes. And you're
Yeah.
going to see, you already started to see the shifts in your thinking.
Okay.
Now you're gonna start to also notice the what people call serendipities.
I already have. I feel like you inviting me to this conversation
Yeah,
felt like that for me.
yeah, this is the law of assumption because
Mm-hmm.
now you're assuming something else.
Mm-hmm.
So when you assume a new identity, you now have the identity of I am good enough. So
Mm-hmm.
when you assume that identity, automatically the world will start to shift to
Yes.
show you
Yeah.
proof that you are good enough.
Yeah.
And
Feeling,
that's the work.
yeah. And it shows. And that's why I was saying, like, even something as like starting a business, even something as like the relationship, because I feel like even this, like when you first asked me, I was like, what do I have? Like, I don't know. I was questioning a little bit like what I have to offer, but then I feel like I think honestly because of the EMDR, I really do think it is like those two times that I had it with someone, right? Because it's gonna be very different than how it would be if you did. But even coming into this today, I was like, I might not know everything, I might not have all the experience of some people, and I still have wisdom, and I still have knowledge, and I still want to share that. Like I still have something I want to share that I find worthwhile, and I think yeah, I think that really did come from. I have to give it credit, and credit to like the two people, I can't name them, but they know who they are, who were my partners in that, and my own therapist. And it takes time, and it's like you said, each for each season there's something different. Like when I started, for me really started this journey, a lot of it had to do with I had a lot of period pain. So that was my first introduction to connecting with my body and being like, why am I in this much pain every month? Like something here.
I'm working on that
And
myself presently now because
it's hard.
when I went through these 2 months of hell, I got diagnosed with some health issues, and it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like this is all a manifestation of things
Yes.
going inside, and I was like, I need to keep going, just
Mm-hmm.
keep the ball going because it's not normal to
Mm-hmm.
have that much like monthly pain.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Um, and it's like I gained weight and it's like a lot of different stuff just from one issue
Mm-hmm.
and lower back pain and
Yeah. So much. I mean, so like not to go on that, but it's like even feeling suicidal at times during the month, and like there's so much that anxiety, like there's so much that comes from that. But I think that's what I mean as a journey. That's why when you said like the talk therapist, like I had a therapist that for a year, like I would go every week, and it was a therapy that I don't know, no longer like, and that's not my vibe. Like I'm not trying to do that type of therapy, but it was so important for that moment that I was in, and it taught me so much to then build on to the therapist that I've been working with now, who is very like very aligned with me, very spiritual, very like I admire and respect her so much. Dariela Vasquez, if you she's there, she's on
well
Instagram, and
maybe we'll bring her on. Maybe we'll bring
I
her on.
I will because she is yeah, changed my life. So I think then to there from there to this EMDR, but also to I've been you introduced me to EFT tapping. So I've been doing a lot of your EFT tapping videos before I started EMDR training. And I almost
Yes.
feel like it was like a lead up
Yeah, I
to
sent you
that.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I will watch because I love your chat. I love what you do. Like, so I'm like, there's so many people that contribute to the journey. There's so many people along the way that it's like, even if we're crawling, there's gonna be these moments that along the way people are there to give you water and to like just pat you and to massage you because they know how hard it is, and then you keep
Yeah.
going. And I think that like I love what you're doing of building community because I see the comments on your videos and what
Yeah.
people say and stuff like that. And I think that like the community part of it is so important.
And I love that. Obviously, I sort of see my channel sort of like a family,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like we'll help each other,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't sit here and say, I know everything, because everybody knows I'm going through my own journey.
Mm-hmm.
But as I learn, you'll learn,
Yeah.
and then it's kind of like you said, having that hand there to kind of like just guide you or just soothe you when you need
Mm-hmm.
that person to tell you it's gonna be okay, and you're like, no, it's freaking not,
Yeah.
and they're like, it's okay, just no judgment,
Mm-hmm.
because they've been through the fire themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what we need more of. We need people to do the work, and then we
Mm-hmm.
need people to be there for it's kind of like a pay it forward.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Did you see that movie? That
I
movie.
did. Didn't we all? We had to. That stayed with me. No, but it's true. Like sometimes you can't, like you said, you sometimes have to trust the process, and sometimes you just can't trust the process. But sometimes
No,
having
you
someone
can't.
else trust for you,
Yeah.
that is like, and then you do that for someone else. Like you said, you pay it forward to someone else, and we're just all sharing that trust. We're all sharing that love. But I think that's why I think with EMDR is so powerful because you are doing it with someone else in the room. You're not doing it alone. And some of
Yeah.
these things, the reason why they were so overwhelming is because we were 6, we were 8, 10, 13, or
Yeah.
even 22, 50. But the moment was so overwhelming to handle it alone. And it's just like to have someone else there, that's part of the healing. Like you letting in someone else during these really painful moments and leaning on them, that's part of the lesson, that's part of the healing,
Yeah.
just as much as the reprocessing, the butterfly taps, all that stuff, and having someone else there, so important.
These things happen to us. I don't know why. Some people say it's to build character. Some people say it's for wisdom. So many things happen to children even before they're born. And our
Mm-hmm.
bodies can be so smart, because sometimes you will even repress the memory
Until
because
you
you're
can.
not, you're too small. You're
Mm-hmm.
not able to handle the emotional
Mm-hmm.
impact. So your body hides it away from you. And what happens is it's been hidden for years. That file
Mm-hmm.
has been open for years.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to develop, you know, autoimmune diseases, because it's been proven that a lot of
Yeah.
autoimmune diseases are because of emotions stored in
Mm-hmm.
your body. You start to get sick and you start to get all these things, and you're like, why is this happening? You know? So it's so important to look at it, in a full holistic, but also like a full thing,
Mm-hmm.
because there's more than one layer.
Yeah.
There's, like you said, there's seasons. You had a type of therapist, now you changed to a different one. I've been through therapists, EFT tapping. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to acupuncture. I've done emotion code. It's like sometimes it
Yeah.
will take several things until I fully, move past certain things.
Mm-hmm.
But this is so important. I love that you came to my channel.
Thank you for having me.
Um,
Truly.
if you want to book a EMDR session with Carolina, she is currently only able to assist people in New York
Mm-hmm.
with insurance.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if I also want to offer that, like if something that I love to do when I can't, because I only do like one insurance in New York, but if you ever want to reach out to me, because we'll link the link and all that will be
Yeah.
happening. But if you ever want to reach out to someone to talk for like 10, 20 minutes, someone that knows about all these different therapy modalities, and it's just like, what do you think would be good for me? That's something that I also have a lot of, I think is really important to have a lot of practice it, and I'm open to it, like no cost. It's not like I'm not saying like it costs money. Like honestly, like just reach out to me, even if it's just through email. It's like I just don't know what might be a good therapy modality for me, and like I'm open to that because I think that like that's a really important part of it. There is one thing I want to share to take from EMDR that people can do on their own if we have like a second, because I know
Yes,
it's like I
yes, yes,
appreciate you
yes.
respecting the time. But EMDR, like I said, it happens to two people, but one thing that we can do using using some of the techniques of it is we can tap in, like what I was saying, tap in
Mhm.
the positive things. So like right now, I feel so loved. I feel so supported by you. I feel so like seen by you. So I would do slow taps and I can rock from left
Okay.
to right.
Okay.
And what this is
Very
doing,
soothing.
it is very soothing. And it's just like really bringing us into our body and being like, wow, this is what it feels like to be talking to someone that understands, someone that's on the same journey. This is what it feels like. And it's like my body is receiving that, even when it hasn't always received this.
Yeah.
And we're locking this in the same way that we lock in some of the not so fun things, some of the harder
Right.
things. But I think that this is a way to lock in the love, lock in the support, all of these things that we get to experience day to day. Even if you're having a really good meal and you're like, wow, this tastes so good. This tastes like
Yeah.
mommy's cooking. Like that, you tap it in.
Oh,
And
that's
that's where I
amazing.
tap it in.
Tap it in.
And that's just something I wanted to share.
Thank you so much once again,
Mhm.
Carolina, for joining me on
Thank you.
this video. I'll leave Carolina's information in the description box below. We're also going to link maybe one or two YouTube videos showing
Hmm.
how EMDR is done. And if you guys want to reach out to her, chat with her,
Please.
information will be below. Thank you so much. And
Thank you,
I hope this
Mariana.
video was helpful. And until next time, bye.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.